Now available on Blu-ray from Arrow Home Video is 1992's The Vagrant. This is a film that I thought I had never heard of until I looked it up and I saw the old video box cover and I'm like, oh yeah, that movie. That's one of those tapes I saw on the shelf for decades and I just never picked up. So now I finally saw it. Apparently Scream Factory may have released this in the past. I don't know. It's just like, again, I've never heard of this. So this film stars Bill Paxton and Colleen Camp and Michael Ironside and Stuart Pankin from Not Necessarily the News and Nearly Departed and other things, and Marshall Bell, who's a name you don't know, but a face you absolutely do know, as the titular vagrant. So basically the deal is that Bill Paxton is this, if I may use an old term, yuppie, who's looking to buy a house. He's looking to buy a first home. And Colleen Camp is his they would say, estate agent in England, his real estate agent, and she brings him to this house on a rough side of town that's really run down, but refers to it as, a fixer-upper, a starter home. And eventually he decides he'll buy this house, and not long after that he goes in to start cleaning it up and moving his stuff in, and he finds this really gruesome looking homeless guy at his kitchen sink back to him, who just shuffles out with his rolling cart of possessions, and therein begins the story. So basically Paxton is doing everything he can to keep this guy out of his house, who's been using his house as it's been abandoned, and he keeps seeing this guy who has this horribly, gruesomely disfigured and scarred face and hands, and he keeps thinking this guy is getting in. Now, is the guy getting into Paxton's house, or is the guy getting into Paxton's head? That's where it goes. So Paxton, as the story goes, becomes more and more obsessed with this vagrant, obsessed with trying to get the police to arrest and take the vagrant away, or arrest him from getting in his house or getting close to him, or urinating in his neighbor's bushes or something like that. And he just becomes more and more unhinged as the film goes. And it's as I like to call it, it's a circling the drain movie. Paxton starts off as this upwardly mobile guy who's ready to get that promotion anytime at this big company. And the mania over this guy who may or may not be tormenting him and getting into his house and almost doing bad things drives him increasingly crazy, and his quality of life takes a bit of a dip. So very wacky movie. This is a Brooks Films production. This was executive produced by Mel Brooks, directed by Chris Wallace, who I don't know if he had done much else. He was a special effects guy. He worked on Gremlins and a bunch of other things. And it's really odd. It almost reminded me of The Dark Backward. It's not the same level of weird, but it is an unhinged Bill Paxton. It is sometimes gruesome makeup effects. Like murders start happening around Bill Paxton. Is it The Vagrant or is it not? And some of the aftermath of those murders are like body parts and gruesome stuff. And its sense of humor is really absurd, is really goofy at times. Like it's not really presented in a cartoony way, but Paxton gets pretty cartoony sometimes, and Colleen Camp gets a little Colleen Campy at times, or just wacky at times. And Michael Ironside is in it as a cop who's ostensibly like the straight man, but he's really funny in this too. And you don't usually see Michael Ironside being funny. He's like straight-faced funny. It's a lot of like the dialogue he has is really funny in this. And Marshall Bell as the vagrant is just this gruesome, gruesome dude. So I didn't love it. It was maybe a little aggressively quirky for me. The humor didn't entirely land for me. It kind of felt like irreverent LA humor, if that makes any sense, of its day. But the transfer looks great. It's Arrow, so of course it's going to look great. And it was amusing. Like, I think I'm glad I saw it, but it's probably nothing I need to see again. It's a movie I would probably recommend to friends who haven't seen it, who like Bill Paxton. It's very strange. It's very strange. I think if you like quirky comedies, if you like dark black comedies, because there is, murder in this film, and it just goes to like he's trying to make his house vagrant proof, and you don't see what he does for a while, and then he picks up his girlfriend at the airport and they're driving to the house, and suddenly they drive up on the house and there's like this giant stockade fence and like stadium lights around it. It's just like, it's ridiculously over the top what he's done. So at any rate, extras. There is a new director interview with Chris Wallace. That is 16 minutes. There's an interview with Marshall Bell about being the Vagrant. That's 15 minutes. There's a Michael Ironside interview. That's 12 minutes. A Colleen Camp interview. That's 12 minutes. A trailer and a 14 image gallery. Now the extras, the interviews on this are really interesting because everybody really loved this movie. They loved working on it, and they clearly remember it as a very positive experience. So some of the interviews you see on these are like career-spanning interviews and things like that. These are all really about the movie and about working with each other. Apparently Marshall Bell and Michael Ironside are very good friends, so they talk about working with each other a little bit and their characters and what the experience of doing the movie was like. And it's interesting to see for this film that, again, I'd never heard of. I've never really heard anybody mention this movie before. That's why I was shocked when I thought that maybe this had a Blu-ray release once before. All the extras on this are new to this release, just so you know. So if you do have a previous Blu-ray, these extras won't be on it. Yeah, they all apparently were really into making this movie, and are glad that it's being released and that people can see it. So on Blu-ray from Arrow Home Video is 1992's The Vagrant.